Hey everyone, Effie here. Today I'm going to introduce our new October 2020 stamp and die release. We have 15 new dies and then 2 photopolymer stamps with coordinating dies. So let's get started. First up is our Poppy Smile stamp set. This is a 4x6-inch photopolymer set which features a beautiful floral cluster. It also has some really beautiful smile themed sentiments. And we also have the coordinating die available for purchase separately. This is going to cut out the floral cluster. So here I just have some samples that I've watercolored. This was gold heat embossed on a watercolor panel. I partially embossed the beautiful floral cluster on 2 corners. And then here I just have some that I embossed and then watercolored and die cut. And then I'll just include them on some future projects. So these are really gorgeous. I painted all of them using Ken Oliver color bursts. Next up is our 6x8-inch Cascade bits stamp set. You have 2 floral layers and then 1 layer for the stems, and then you have several sentiments in the 6x8-inch photopolymer set. Here are some pre-stamped panels. You can see all the layers. It's just gorgeous and really easy to stamp. So here are just 4 different color variations. And this set is also a patent pending grouped layering stamp set with those bars and squares, which makes it very easy to align all the layers. And then you have the coordinating grouped layering die, which will cut out all of the layered images in one shot through your die cutting machine. Next up is our 7-piece holiday border die collection. There are 7 dies in this entire collection and it's really cool. Each border has some negative cutouts and some stitching. It depends on the die. Some just have only stitching, but the larger ones have both these negative cutouts and really cool whimsical stitching details. You can also tape your dies together to create kind of a faux cover plate. And what's great about these border dies is that they're long enough for your slimline cards, because I know how popular those slimline cards are these days. So I'm just going to do a little bit of die cutting here to show you these dies in action. I'm just going to tape them onto a horizontal A2 card panel. I tape them down with some Thermoweb purple tape. I put the whole thing into my die cutting sandwich, and I'm using a Gemini Junior. So I did use that extra metal shim because these dies are intricate. So you want to use that extra shim to make sure it all gets cut out. And look how cool this is. You can use the border die selectively or all together. And here is the next die that I will introduce. But before I go ahead with the Merry Christmas sentiment, I want to show you guys this entire large panel that I die cut. This is half of a letter size, so it's half of the 8.5 by 11-inch panel, and I just took that entire faux cover plate die that I created and I die cut the panel. So this I can use to create 2 A2 cards, or I can create 1 slimline card. Here's that Merry Christmas sentiment die that I showed you earlier. I used our pink and gold holographic adhesive papers to get that really cool shiny effect. And here you can see how large the sentiment is against a horizontal A2 panel. Next up is our fall layered leaves cover plate dies. These are really cool dies because they not only do they coordinate, but they're great for mass producing leaves that you can use for your fall themed projects. You have the solid layer die, and this is going to cut out 8 solid leaves with some stitching detail inside the solid pieces. And then the second die will cut out coordinating outline die cuts. You can use the die cuts from both dies as standalone pieces, or you can layer them up together because they do coordinate. So depending on the different techniques that you want to use, there are some really cool techniques out there that you can get different results. But here I just die cut them using white cardstock just quickly to show you guys how cool this set is. And here I just die cut the solid layer and just did some ink blending. Next up is our pine sprigs cover plate die. This die is going to cut out 3 pine sprigs that you can use for your holiday projects. You can use these to help customize your floral clusters. And since all 3 images are on the one die, it'll be easy to mass produce. I designed our new pine tree die along the same concept so that it would be easy to mass produce. So for our pine tree die, you can cut out 5 trees very easily in one single pass. Next up is our deer silhouette die. This die, you will be able to die cut 6 die silhouette pieces in one pass through your die cutting machine. Here I just cut some out on some craft cardstock. So you can just create a bunch of these and stick them on your projects. Next up is our Bold Alphas upper dies. These are cover plate dies. I generally do not like to tape down individual dies one by one. It's just I don't have time for that. So I created our alpha dies so that you can easily create your alpha die cuts in one single easy pass. But for these alphas, I separated the cover plate so that you have the vowels in one cover plate die, the main consonants that you typically use in another die, and then the least used consonants like the X, Q, V, W's, and Z's. Those are on separate dies. So same concept with our bold alpha lower dies, except it's just the lowercase and a bold font. And here's just a comparison of the M's for both upper and lower dies. Next up are our Modern Alphas cover plate dies. This is an updated die design of our Modern Alphas cover plate die, which was one single die. But then I re-released it into 3 separate dies so that you have the vowels, most used consonants, and least used consonants. And then in addition, I also created the numbers and symbols cover plate dies because some of you guys might need some numbers and symbols in your life. They are available separately, so let's move on. Next up is our A2 grid cover plate die. This is a very simple design, but a nice basic to have in your stash. It's going to go great with the florals. Next up is our scalloped nested A2 dies. This is just the largest one. And here I die cut it. You can see you have the scalloped edges with the stitching detail on the inside. What I'm excited about this set is that the smaller dies in this nesting set, when you cut them out, they look like little postage stamps. How cool is that? I'm going to have some projects in the future using the smaller size dies. Next up is our dome snow globe dies. The die on the left will cut out the background panel of the snow globe, and then the die on the right will cut out the border of the dome snow globe. And then the last piece will be the snow globe base, and here I just created some dome snow globe shakers. Next up is our round snow globe dies, and it's the same concept. The die on the left is the die for the background panel. The die on the right is going to cut out the border frame for your snow globe, and then these 2 dies will cut out 3 pieces for your round snow globe base, which you can assemble, and it'll look just like this. And here's a shaker that I made, that wood grain background that you see on the base. I used that with our buildable wood grain stamp set. For this one, I didn't create the shaker element for my snow globe, but you can just assemble it and easily create a nice holiday scene. Next up is our twist and pop dies. These are going to cut out 2 pieces so that you can create a pop-up element inside your card. So after you've die cut both, I created these out of white cardstock. You're going to take this rectangular piece. They have 3 score lines inside, and you're going to do a valley fold, mountain fold, and then valley fold, so that when you're done folding it up, you end up with a W. This is crucial. Make sure it's a W and not an M. Next, you have this piece. There are some more score lines, but you want to make sure that you fold these 2 wings inside that triangular piece, just like this. And there are score lines inside your die cuts that are going to help guide where you need to fold. So just watch closely. So this is the pop-up mechanism. Once you're done folding this, you're going to grab your card base, and then you're going to apply some liquid adhesive to the triangular portions of that pop-up mechanism, and you're going to center it inside your card base. You want to make sure it's centered, and then you're going to close your card base over the portions of your pop-up mechanism that you applied that glue to. There are 2 squares at the ends of your pop-up mechanism. You're going to see the squares outlined by the score line. So make sure you only apply adhesive inside those squares. You don't want to put the glue outside the score lines. And then you're just going to apply that panel that we folded into the W over the 2 squares. So once you've adhered your W panel onto your pop-up mechanism, you can see it's going to look just like this. As you close your card base, that pop-up mechanism, the way it works, it's going to twist that inner panel so that it lays flat when it's folded. So how cool is that? You might need to open and close it to get used to the twist and pop mechanism, but it's really simple and really fun. I'll have more projects in the future using these dies. So here's a lineup of the projects that I created. With our October 2020 release, I used our fall layered leaves for this card. For the next card, I used a combination of our new products. You can see the holiday border die cut background in the back. It's subtle but really cute. Next up here, you can see I used the round snow globes with the deer and the pine trees, and then our poinsettia wishes, pine cones for the florals. And next up, I used the fall layered leaves for the background, the bold alpha uppers for the sentiment, and then the happy is from our many sentiments. And I'll have a video soon on how I created those leaves. I'll post that maybe tomorrow. For this card, I used our holiday border dies for the background, pine sprigs, and layered or grouped layered Christmas bows. And then for this one, I also used the pine sprigs. I really like to use the die cuts for that die to make my Christmas clusters a little bit more fuller with more interest. And here in the background, I embossed our holiday border dies. For my next card, I used our A2 grid cover plate die for the background, and then our pine tree die I die cut onto white cardstock and stamped on top using our mini pine stamp set. Our last card for today, I used the outline die cuts from our fall layered leaves. The font is from our bold alpha upper dies. So here is the full lineup of our October 2020 release, all the projects I made. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Be sure to head over to our blog to check out all 15 new dies and 2 new stamps. We have a bundle available with over $100 in savings. So I will link the blog post in the description box below. Be sure to check it out. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel because I update it regularly. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.